I'm the one who pushed him away. And now everyone thinks I deserve what I got. But what nobody knows is that when I told Marcus I needed more excitement in our relationship, I already had someone specific in mind, and he found out before he ever met her. My friends tell me karma finally caught up with me. My sister won't return my calls. Marcus's mom, who used to treat me like a daughter, told mutual friends I got exactly what I asked for. They're all right that I started this, but they're wrong about why it hurts so much. The part that keeps me awake at night isn't that he left. It's what I did in the 3 weeks before he made his decision. Choices I've hidden from everyone. I'm going to tell you everything. There's a text message I sent that explains the whole mess. One I deleted from my phone, but can never delete from my mind. Once you know what it said and who received it, you'll understand why this situation is so much messier than anyone realizes. Marcus and I had been together for 4 years when I started feeling restless. That sounds terrible. I know. He was objectively a great boyfriend, thoughtful, stable, supportive of my career. When I got promoted to regional sales manager, he bought champagne and cooked my favorite meal. When my dad was in the hospital, Marcus took a week off work to drive me back and forth for visiting hours. But somewhere around year 3, I started noticing the pattern. Same Saturday morning farmer's market. Same Sunday brunch spot. Same vacation destination every summer, his parents' lake house. Marcus would suggest we try the new Thai restaurant downtown, and I'd get excited. Then he'd add, or we could just do our usual pizza place. And somehow, we always ended up at Luigi's. Again, I tried dropping hints. Wouldn't it be fun to be more spontaneous? I'd say. He'd agree enthusiastically, then nothing would change. I bought tickets to a concert for a band I knew he'd never heard of. Something different from our usual routine. He seemed confused about why we weren't seeing the classic rock tribute band that played at our local bar every month. The thing is, I never actually told him it was becoming a problem. I just grew quieter, started scrolling through my phone more during our predictable dinners, made excuses to skip the farmer's market. Small rebellions that Marcus either didn't notice or chose to ignore. Then I met Damien at a sales conference in Chicago. He was everything Marcus wasn't. Unpredictable, adventurous, the kind of guy who'd suggest getting the conference at 2 in the morning to find real deep dish pizza. We didn't do anything physical in Chicago. I need to be clear about that. Even though what we did do was probably worse. We stayed up until 4 in the morning talking in the hotel bar. He told me about backpacking through Southeast Asia. I told him I'd always wanted to try skydiving. So do it, he said, like it was the simplest thing in the world. Nothing happened, but when I came home, I couldn't stop thinking about those conversations, about how alive I'd felt, how Marcus had picked me up from the airport with flowers and asked about my trip. And I'd given him the sanitized version while texting Damien later about the real highlights. That's when I made my first real mistake. I didn't cut contact with Damien. We kept texting. Nothing inappropriate, just funny observations about our workdays, links to articles, the kind of banter that made me check my phone constantly. Marcus noticed. You seem distracted, he said one night, during another predictable dinner at Luigi's. Is everything okay? I could have been honest right then. Instead, I picked a fight. Don't you ever want more than this? I gestured around the restaurant we'd been to 100 times. More excitement? More anything? Marcus looked genuinely confused. I thought you liked it here. I do, but every single week, the same thing over and over? We can go somewhere else if you want, he said, already looking defeated. Why didn't you just say something? But I wasn't finished. I'd been holding this in for months, and it came pouring out. It's not just the restaurant. It's everything. We're in a rut. We never do anything spontaneous. We're like an old married couple, and we're not even 30 yet. I watched his face fall, and part of me felt vindicated. Finally, a reaction. Finally, something that wasn't pleasant and predictable and safe. "What do you need?" he asked quietly. "More excitement," I said. "I need to feel alive again." I thought he'd argue. Instead, he just nodded. "Okay, I'll think about what that looks like." The conversation ended there, but something had shifted. I'd drawn a line in the sand, and I felt powerful doing it. What I didn't tell Marcus was that I'd had 3 hours of texting with Damien earlier that day, and he was the one who'd helped me realize how stuck I was. Damien thought I deserved someone who matched my energy. I was starting to agree. Over the next week, Marcus actually tried. He suggested we take salsa dancing lessons. He bought tickets to an escape room. He planned a surprise weekend trip to a bed and breakfast 2 hours away. But here's the thing I couldn't admit to anyone. I didn't want Marcus to change. I wanted permission to want something different. Someone different. The salsa lessons felt forced. At the escape room, I kept comparing Marcus's methodical approach to how Damien would have tackled it with more humor, more spontaneity. The BB weekend should have been romantic, but I spent half of it texting Damien about a work crisis that wasn't really a crisis. Marcus noticed that too. On the drive home from the BB, he asked, "Who are you always texting?" "Just work stuff," I lied. "On a Sunday evening? Sales never sleeps." I tried to make it sound light, but Marcus didn't laugh. When we got home, he was quiet. Not angry quiet, just resigned. That's when I should have known something was changing in him too, but I was too focused on the growing distance I'd created to see what it meant. 2 days later, Marcus came home from the gym, looking different. He'd always been in decent shape, but now he was talking about hiring a personal trainer. "I'm thinking about mixing things up," he said. "Trying something new." I remember feeling annoyed, which is insane. I'd literally demanded he be more exciting, and now that he was taking initiative, I was irritated. Maybe because it felt performative, maybe because I'd already emotionally checked out. That week, Damien asked me to grab drinks when he was in town for another work thing. I said yes without thinking twice. I told Marcus I had a dinner with a client. Another lie, but this one felt bigger, premeditated. The drinks with Damien were everything I'd been craving. We went to a speakeasy I'd never heard of, with a hidden entrance and cocktails that came with elaborate presentations. Damien told stories that made me laugh so hard my cheeks hurt. He asked about my dreams, not just my day. When he dropped me off at my car, there was a moment where we just looked at each other. And I knew if I leaned in, he'd kiss me. I didn't lean in, but I didn't pull back either. We just sat in that charged space for what felt like forever, before I finally said goodnight. I came home to find Marcus had made dinner, another attempt at being spontaneous. He tried cooking Thai food from scratch. The kitchen was a disaster, and the curry was too spicy, but he looked so proud of himself. "How was your client dinner?" he asked. The lie sat in my throat like a stone. "Good. Productive." We ate the too spicy curry, and I pretended to appreciate the effort, while mentally replaying my evening with Damien. Marcus told me about his day, about his new trainer, about some guys from the gym who'd invited him to join their basketball league. "That sounds great," I said, barely listening. Later that night, Damien texted, "I had a great time tonight. We should make it a regular thing." I stared at that message for a long time before responding, "Definitely." The next morning, I woke up to Marcus already gone. He'd left a note saying he had early training, but he'd made me coffee and left it in the pot. Such a Marcus thing to do. Thoughtful, reliable, boring. I poured the coffee down the sink and went to Starbucks instead. That's when I ran into Jess, my best friend from college. We grabbed a table, and she immediately zeroed in on my mood. "You look different," she said. "Good different. What's going on?" I told her about feeling stuck with Marcus, about needing more excitement. I didn't mention Damien by name, but I told her about meeting someone who got me. In a way, Marcus didn't. Jess's expression shifted from curiosity to concern. Are you cheating on Marcus? No, I said quickly. We're just friends. But I think I'm realizing that Marcus and I might not be right for each other long term. So break up with him, Jess said bluntly. Don't string him along while you figure your shit out. But I wasn't ready to break up. Breaking up meant losing the security of our relationship, our shared apartment, the future we'd planned. I wanted to keep my safety net while exploring other options. I just couldn't admit that to myself yet. I'm trying to give him a chance to change, I said. Jess raised an eyebrow. That's not fair to him, and you know it. I changed the subject, but her words stuck with me. She was right. I was being unfair. But instead of doing something about it, I just buried that guilt and kept going. Marcus continued his transformation. New clothes, new haircut. He started coming home later from the gym, sometimes grabbing drinks with his basketball buddies afterward. I should have been happy he was developing his own interests, but instead, I felt territorial. Like he was supposed to stay the same predictable Marcus while I figured out what I wanted. Meanwhile, Damien and I were texting constantly. Good morning messages, funny memes throughout the day, long conversations late at night when Marcus was already asleep. We still hadn't crossed any physical lines, but emotionally, I was absolutely cheating. 3 weeks after our speakeasy night, Damien told me he'd be in town again. Same place, same time? He texted. I was typing yes when Marcus walked in from the gym, sweaty and energized in a way I wasn't used to seeing. Hey, he said, kissing my cheek. I need to talk to you about something. My stomach dropped. He knew. Somehow he'd figured it out. Okay, I said, setting my phone down. Marcus sat across from me at our kitchen table, and I noticed details I'd been missing. He looked good. Really good. The training was paying off. And there was something different in his eyes, a confidence I hadn't seen before. I've been doing a lot of thinking, he started. About what you said. About needing more excitement. Here it comes, I thought. The ultimatum. Change or leave. You were right, he continued. We were in a rut. I was comfortable, and I wasn't paying attention to what you needed. I felt a strange mix of vindication and guilt. I've been trying to change that, he said. But I realized something else while I was working on myself. He paused, and I saw something in his expression I couldn't quite read. I realized I'd stopped seeing you clearly. I'd stopped seeing myself clearly too. What do you mean? I asked. At the gym, I've been meeting new people, doing new things, and it made me realize how much I'd let slide into routine without questioning it. He looked directly at me, including us. My phone buzzed on the table. Damien's name flashed on the screen. Marcus's eyes flicked to it, then back to me. Who's Damien? He asked calmly. My mouth went dry. A coworker we met at the conference. The one you text all the time? We're just friends. Marcus nodded slowly. Okay, but something in his tone said he didn't believe me. Well, maybe he didn't care. That scared me more. Marcus, it's fine, he said. I'm not mad. I actually wanted to tell you that I met someone at the gym. The world tilted. What? Her name is Sophie. She's one of the trainers there. He said it so casually, like he was mentioning the weather. We've been talking a lot. She's really different from anyone I've known. Spontaneous, adventurous. She convinced me to try rock climbing last weekend. You went rock climbing? I heard how stupid I sounded, but I couldn't process what was happening. Yeah, it was incredible. His face lit up in a way I hadn't seen in years. She's teaching me all these new things. It's made me realize how much excitement I was missing too. Are you? I couldn't finish the question. Am I interested in her? Yeah, I am. He said it without apology. But I haven't done anything about it because we're together. I wanted to have this conversation first. I felt like I'd been punched. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He was supposed to fight for us, to try harder, to prove he could be what I needed, so I could feel justified in leaving or staying, or whatever I was going to decide. What kind of conversation? I managed. An honest one. Marcus leaned forward. Do you still want to be with me? Because I'm not sure I know the answer anymore. And I think you've been not sure for a while now. My phone buzzed again. Damien, did you see my message? Want to confirm for Thursday? Marcus saw it too. Is that the excitement you were looking for? I should have denied it. Should have fought for my relationship. Instead, I just sat there, caught. I don't know what I want. I finally said, which was the first fully honest thing I'd said in weeks. That's not fair to either of us, Marcus said, echoing Jess's words. I spent the last 3 weeks trying to become someone you find exciting. But meeting Sophie made me realize something. Maybe the problem isn't that I'm boring. Maybe the problem is that we're boring together. Maybe we've run our course. So what are you saying? Panic was rising in my chest. This wasn't the plan. I was supposed to be the one in control of this situation. I'm saying I think we should take a break, really evaluate what we want. He stood up. I'm going to stay at my brother's place for a while. Give us both some space to figure things out. You're leaving? I stood up too, my voice getting shrill. Just like that? Just like that. Marcus laughed. But it wasn't a happy sound. You've been emotionally gone for months. I'm just finally catching up. He went to our bedroom and started packing a bag. I followed, my mind racing. This was supposed to be my decision. My timeline. How had he flipped the script? What about us? I asked. Don't you want to try to work on things? Marcus stopped packing and looked at me with something like pity. Do you? Honestly? I opened my mouth to say yes, but the lie wouldn't come. Because no, I didn't want to work on things. I wanted the safety of his presence while I explored my options with Damien. I wanted to have my cake and eat it too. That's what I thought, Marcus said softly. He zipped his bag. I'll come back this weekend to get more of my stuff. We can talk about the apartment and everything else then. He walked to the door, then turned back. For what it's worth, I hope Damien gives you what you're looking for. I really do. But I'm not going to wait around while you figure it out. Then he left. I stood in our apartment, surrounded by our stuff, our life together, and felt completely unmoored. I grabbed my phone and called Jess. He left, I said when she answered. Marcus, what happened? I told her everything about Sophie, about the break, about how he'd just packed up and walked out. Wow, Jess said. That's actually pretty badass of him. Badass? He abandoned me. Did he? Jess asked quietly. Or did he just stop letting you keep him on the hook? I hung up on her. Then I texted Damien. Marcus and I just broke up. Can we talk? His response came fast. Oh man, I'm sorry. But also, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little relieved. Want to grab dinner tomorrow instead of Thursday? I stared at that message. This was what I wanted, right? Freedom to explore things with Damien? So why did I feel so sick? The next day, I went to dinner with Damien. He was as charming as ever, full of stories and energy. He ordered for both of us, choosing adventurous dishes I'd never tried. When he reached across the table to touch my hand, that electric feeling was still there. I'm really glad we can finally do this without you having to feel guilty, he said. But I did feel guilty. Not about Marcus, about the fact that now, that I could have Damien without sneaking around, he seemed less appealing. The thrill had been in the forbidden nature of it, I realized with growing horror. Without that, he was just a guy. A fun guy, sure, but not the answer to all my problems I'd built him up to be. We went on 3 more dates over the next 2 weeks. By date 4, I was already getting bored. Damien's spontaneity started to feel exhausting. His stories got repetitive. When he suggested we go skydiving, The thing I'd told him I always wanted to do. I made an excuse. Meanwhile, Marcus was thriving. I saw pictures on Instagram of him and Sophie at a concert, rock climbing, hiking some mountain trail at sunrise. He looked happy, genuinely, radiantly happy, in a way he'd never looked with me. My friends started asking questions. What happened with you and Marcus? Are you dating that guy from your work conference? Are you okay? I gave vague answers. The truth was too complicated. I pushed Marcus to be more exciting. And when he actually became more exciting, he'd realized he didn't need me. He'd found someone who matched his new energy, and I was left with the guy I'd emotionally cheated with, who turned out to be just as boring in his own way. I broke things off with Damien after date 6. He took it well. Too well, actually. Yeah, kind of felt it fizzling too, he said. No hard feelings. So now I had nothing. No Marcus, no Damien. Just the growing realization that I'd destroyed something real for the fantasy of something better. I tried to reach out to Marcus, called him, left voicemails. Can we talk? I think I made a mistake. He didn't call back. Finally, he texted. I'm seeing Sophie officially now. I'm sorry, but I've moved on. I think you should too. That's when I really started to spiral. I showed up at his brother's place unannounced. Marcus came outside, looking annoyed. What are you doing here? He asked. I miss you, I said. I miss us. Can we please try again? You miss the security, Marcus corrected. You miss having someone reliable while you explored other options. That's not the same thing. That's not fair, isn't it? He crossed his arms. Be honest. If Damien had worked out, would you be here right now? I couldn't answer. That's what I thought, Marcus said. Look, I don't hate you, but I don't want to be with you anymore. You did me a favor, actually. You made me realize I was settling for a relationship that wasn't making either of us happy. I'm not settling anymore. So that's it? 4 years together, and you're just done? You were done months ago, Marcus said quietly. I'm just catching up. Again. He went back inside, and I stood there feeling pathetic and desperate in a way I'd never experienced before. Over the next month, things got worse. I threw myself into work, trying to distract myself from the mess I'd made of my personal life. But work events meant seeing Damien, which was awkward. He'd started dating someone from the Chicago office, and they looked happy together. I ran into Marcus and Sophie at a coffee shop downtown. They were laughing together over some inside joke, and when Marcus saw me, his smile didn't fade. He just waved politely and went back to his conversation. I wasn't even a blip on his radar anymore. That's when I did the thing I'm most ashamed of. I created a fake Instagram account and started following Sophie. I told myself I just wanted to understand who she was, what made her so special. But really, I was looking for flaws. Evidence that she wasn't as great as she seemed. Proof that Marcus would realize he'd made a mistake. Instead, I found someone genuinely cool. She posted about her rock climbing adventures, her volunteer work at an animal shelter, her close-knit friend group. She seemed adventurous, but also kind. Exciting, but also grounded. Everything I'd wanted to be, but never actually worked toward. And the pictures of her and Marcus, they looked so natural together. In our photos, I could see now that Marcus had always looked slightly uncomfortable, like he was performing for the camera. With Sophie, he just looked like himself. A better version of himself. I spent hours scrolling through her feed, through Marcus's feed, torturing myself with evidence of their happiness. My friends started worrying about me. Jess staged an intervention. You need to stop stalking them online, she said. It's not healthy. I'm not stalking, I protested. I'm just curious. You're obsessing. You need to let this go and move on. But I couldn't. Because letting go meant admitting that I'd ruined the best thing I had over a fantasy. That my need for excitement had been code for I want something new and shiny, without doing the work to appreciate what I already had. My mom called one night. Having heard through the grapevine about the breakup. What happened, honey? Marcus was such a nice boy. He was boring, I said, defending myself. We were in a rut. Relationships take work, my mom said. The exciting phase doesn't last forever. That's when you build something deeper. Well, maybe I didn't want deeper. Maybe I wanted exciting. And how's that working out for you? She asked pointedly. I couldn't answer that either. Work became my only refuge, but even that got complicated. My boss pulled me aside after a presentation. Your numbers are slipping, she said. Is everything okay? You seem distracted. I assured her I was fine, that I'd get my performance back on track. But that night, I sat in my apartment, the one I'd have to move out of soon, since I couldn't afford it alone, and cried for the first time since the breakup. I'd lost Marcus. I'd lost my chance with Damien, for what that was worth. I'd lost my friends. Respect. I was losing my edge at work. All because I'd wanted more excitement. That's when I found it. The text message I'd deleted, but not really. I was scrolling through my phone backup on my computer, looking for a work document, when I saw the conversation, from 3 weeks before Marcus left. The one I'd forgotten about.